Z Business Plus makes managing fuel easy. It's fee-free with choice benefits like 8 cents off every litre, every day, everywhere you need us. Sign up today for the 2022 CanStar Blue Best Small Business Fuel Card. Z is for New Zealand. T's and C's apply.
News Talk ZB and weekend sport less than 24 hours away from the start of the FIFA World Cup in, of all places, Qatar. What are we doing having a World Cup in the desert in November and December? Well, I think we all know the answer to that, but rather than focus on those sorts of things, let's get you to Qatar. Our usual Saturday afternoon Australian correspondent, Adam Pecock, out of codesports.com.au, is in Qatar covering the tournament for Code Sports. He joins us now. Adam, thanks for taking the time. Would you know there's a World Cup on? How would you describe the vibe in Qatar right now?
If you asked me that question 24 hours ago, Piney, I would have said, can't really tell there's much of a World Cup here in Doha, which is an intriguing little setup. Like, you've got this westernised monstrosity of a city, like, just expanding at a rate, buildings going up left, right and centre. You've got these government buildings which are just ridiculously built in terms of their size and stature. And then you've got the suburbs, which we're staying in, which are filled with a lot of, for instance, where we are, North African expats, a lot of Tunisians, a lot of Moroccans, and it's a lively place. Now, during the day, it's pretty dead because it's so damn hot. It's still 35 degrees, even though it's 2 weeks from winter. But at night time, and I just went out into the main area, the souk, they call it, like market area down near the water, and it was pumping. There was people everywhere, families out having a nice stroll. It's their weekend. Like, Friday here is our Saturday, so families enjoying themselves, football fans around, starting to filter in. You can tell there's something happening, there's something brewing, and I think when the football starts, it'll really take off.
The temperature, you mentioned it there, how warm it is. What kind of heat is it? Is it a dry heat? Is it humid? Can you not take a few steps without starting to break out into a sweat?
Both. It's hot, it's dry and humid, if that makes sense. It's everything. It just hits you between the eyes. But look, as an Aussie, I'm kind of used to warm weather, so I don't mind walking around and getting a little bit of a sweat up, but nothing too ridiculous. It's not like they turn the taps on after 2 minutes, but it is warm. I don't know, for the life of me, for the last 2 days, the English have trained at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, which to me is just rank stupidity. The Australians, our boys, they're training at 5 o'clock. The sun goes down about 5 o'clock every day, and it becomes really like beautiful summer evenings back home. So that's the time to train. The Aussies are all over that. So I think some of these European teams are going to really struggle because they're training the wrong time of the day. They're not used to the conditions. And then when you get to the stadiums, they're air-conditioned as well. So that brings in another factor, that the conditions change again. So it's going to be comfortable to play in, but to prepare in, you got to know your tricks, and a few teams haven't.
Interesting story that's popped up in the last 24, 48 hours, and you've written a piece on this on codesports.com.au. The beer ban in stadiums, which has been confirmed, despite the fact Budweiser are a multi-million-dollar sponsor of FIFA and the World Cup. What do you make of all of this?
Predictable, unfortunately. Yeah, I think this might have been the plan all along. Now they can still sell Budweiser at a World Cup. Just to explain it totally, you can't, and it's like an English Premier League game. You can't sit there with a beer in your seat. You've got to drink it without view of the pitch. So in the stadiums, that inside the precinct, once you scan your ticket and go into precinct of the stadium, you can drink outside, but you can't take it to where your seat is. So that's where they have the Budweiser tent set up. I walked past one today, and it was still up. But the ruling, I think, royal family have turned around and said, look, we don't want alcohol served on the premises of where a game's being held now. So change your mind. You'll have to have the 0% beer to serve over the counter. Now, I don't know, maybe it's the placebo effect. You can still get drunk with the 0% if you really, really open up your imagination. But I think that was always going to happen, unfortunately. And I reckon if you're Budweiser, you're not too dismissive of the idea, because it's some of the greatest marketing your product's ever had in terms of exposure in the last 24 hours. But it just goes to show, again, that we're in a very different culture here. This is a very different World Cup. If you like it or not, that's up to you. But the pure fact is that we're in a Islamic country where they have very different rules to what it's like in the West, and they're trying to find this middle ground for FIFA, and they've only got themselves to blame given how corrupt they were and how it ended up here in the first place. They're having to find this middle ground and try and get this thing done without everyone start yelling at each other for no apparent reason.
We've all watched World Cups. You've been lucky enough to travel to a few of them, as I'm sure a few of our listeners have. How different, given what you've just outlined there, the fact that the culture is so different, how different will the fan experience at this World Cup be to previous World Cups?
I don't really know until game day, Piney. I wouldn't like to actually say, oh, it's going to be the greatest thing, or it's going to be crap, or it's going to be just like any other, because I haven't actually experienced, and I will be paying close attention to it, because I'm like you, first and foremost, I'm a football fan. I'm not a person of the media first and then a football fan second. So, like, for instance, the first match, I'm going to go down to the fan zone and see what that vibe is like. And then before games, I really want to take in the atmosphere around the ground and at the ground as well before the game, and then kind of judge it from there. But I don't know what to expect, really. I do know that Australia-Tunisia, because the 40,000 Tunisians that live here in Doha, that's going to be like a bloody away game for us. That is going to go off. Every Tunisian I bump into is just frothing at the mouth about this contest, about having their team play here. So that's going to be an atmosphere. I don't know about the rest of them, though.
And the Socceroos, obviously, they're well and truly on the ground preparing for their first game before they even get to the Tunisian game. They've got the small matter of the defending champions, France. That's an 8 o'clock in the morning kickoff for us here in New Zealand, so a very civilised time, 6 o'clock in Australia. For you, I guess, late in the evening. How are the Socceroos shaping up ahead of group play? I mean, and do you feel optimistic that they can get out of a pretty tough group?
Yeah, the feeling of quiet optimism is still there. I don't know. I don't like the fact that Martin Boyle's probably not going to play. He's got a knee injury, and I haven't sighted him yet at training, so that ain't cool. That ain't good at all, unfortunately, because we need Martin Boyle. They had a day off from training today, so we'll see tomorrow if he makes the training track. If he doesn't make training tomorrow, which will be 3 days before the game, I can't see how he plays a minute against France. But I think looking at France as well, they got their injury concerns too. Varane and Benzema probably not going to play. I watched them train the other night, and they didn't take part in the main session. So, like we said it when the draw came out, it's a good time to get. It's the best time to get France, because they'll be, if they're ever going to be disjointed, it's going to be in this game, like they were 4 years ago. They weren't the finished article in that game. So, look, I'd be surprised if we got out of the group, but I think we'll give it a massive crack, and I'd love to see these group of players achieve something. It'd be great.
Yeah, I kind of think we feel the same over here. If we can't be there, then I guess we'll cheer on our Australian brothers. Thanks, Adam. Appreciate you taking the time for a chat. Adam Pecock from codesports.com.au. The FIFA World Cup starts tomorrow morning. Opening game, 5 a.m, Qatar against Ecuador. And don't forget that every single day of the tournament, Football Fever is the podcast that you need to keep up with things. Myself and David Choate every single day will bring you up to date with the overnight action and preview what's happening the next day. Football Fever. Get it via iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. The Football World Cup's the biggest sporting event in the world, and you can keep up with the play with me, Jason Pine, and my good mate and former All White David Choate on Football Fever. Listen daily throughout the World Cup as we bring you all the action from Qatar. Choate and I love football. We can't wait for the World Cup to get underway. So join us as we live through all the goals, all the drama, all the glory. Download Football Fever from iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts.